I cannot marry you.
What kind of marriage is this? What kind of relationship is this? Why am I being punished? Do not commit this injustice against me. This is the punishment for what you said. We have made our decision. You must leave this village today. Today's story is about a girl who lived with her old widowed mother, but a snake had become obsessed with her. It kept following her even in the village, and eventually that very snake married the girl and took her into the forest with him. But why was the snake after her? It was a revenge so shocking that it will leave you stunned. In a small village lived an old widowed woman. She had only one young daughter, Miriam. The mother and daughter lived together in their old but loving little house. The old mother collected herbs and made medicines from them, which was their source of livelihood. The villagers believed her medicines to be healing and respected her greatly. One day Miriam went to the well to fetch water in a pot. Village women usually gathered there, but that day the well was completely deserted. Miriam lowered the pot and began pulling it up. She had barely filled it when suddenly she heard a rustling sound from nearby bushes. Startled, Miriam looked back, and a terrifying sight appeared before her. A huge snake was slowly slithering toward her, its red eyes burning like flames. The pot slipped from Miriam's hands, and she ran backward in fear. The snake watched her for a moment, and then suddenly disappeared into the thick bushes. The next day, the old mother sent Miriam to the fields to collect herbs. Miriam was bending among the green grass and plants, plucking herbs, when suddenly that same rustling sound reached her ears again. She turned around and saw the same snake standing before her, the same blazing red eyes, and this time it seemed as if it was smiling. The basket of herbs fell from Miriam's hands, and she ran away in panic. When she reached home, she told her mother everything. Worry crossed the old woman's eyes. She kept comforting her daughter, but inside she herself was restless. She thought this could not be an ordinary snake. Over the next few days, the old mother spoke to many people in the village, but everyone said the same thing. They had never seen such a snake in the village. This answer made the mother's heart sink even more. On the other hand, Miriam's condition worsened. Wherever she went, the same snake would appear in one way or another. She began living under a shadow of fear. Sleep and peace seemed to abandon her life. One night, Miriam was sleeping on a clay bed in her room. Outside, the wind was whistling softly. Suddenly she felt as if someone was rustling near her ear. She jolted awake and slowly opened her eyes, and in an instant her soul trembled. The same snake was slithering before her, its red eyes glowing in the darkness. A scream escaped Miriam's throat, and she began shouting loudly. Within moments, the old mother rushed into the room. "What happened, my daughter? Why are you screaming?" Trembling, Miriam pointed toward the room and said, "Mother, that snake, it came into my room again." The mother looked around in astonishment, but there was nothing in the room, only silence and darkness. Hugging Miriam, she said, "Do not worry, my child. It was just a dream. You were frightened." But Miriam knew it was not a dream, it was reality. The snake was following her everywhere, and now it had even reached her room. The next day, while Miriam and her mother were sitting in the courtyard, suddenly a loud commotion arose from the village. Both rushed outside in fear, and their eyes widened in shock. A huge snake had entered the village. People were running here and there to save their lives. The cries of women and children filled the air, but the strange thing was that the snake harmed no one. It went straight toward Miriam's house and began slithering around it. Seeing this scene, the villagers were stunned. Now they were convinced that the snake was truly after Miriam, just as she and her mother had been saying all along. But now that everyone had seen the truth with their own eyes, the fear in their hearts grew even stronger. Miriam was huddled in her room, her face pale and her heart trembling with fear. Meanwhile, the villagers quietly hid in their huts and houses, but soon this matter became a daily routine. Every day the snake would come and circle around Miriam's house, as if it had come only to look at her, and then it would leave. This situation became unbearable for the villagers. Eventually, the village elders and respected people called a gathering. The entire settlement gathered in one place. The old mother was also sitting there. Deep worry was visible on her face, and helplessness was clear in her eyes. One man stood up and said, "If this snake keeps coming like this, who knows when it might harm us? God forbid, what if it bites our children? We must find a solution." Another man said, "This snake is only after Miriam, so we should hand her over to it. At least the whole village will be saved because of one person." Hearing this, tears began to flow from the old mother's eyes. Crying, she said, "For God's sake, do not commit such cruelty against my innocent daughter. What wrong has she done to anyone?" But the villagers, blinded by fear for their own lives, had forgotten everything. The gathering decided that Miriam would be dressed as a bride and handed over to the snake. When the mother returned home and told Miriam about this decision, the poor girl burst into uncontrollable tears. "Mother, do not let this happen to me. I have done nothing at all." But the mother was helpless. She knew that nothing could stand against the decision of the gathering. The next day, Miriam was dressed as a bride and seated in the open field of the village. The villagers hid at a distance and began watching the scene. Everyone felt fear and anxiety in their hearts. After a short while, the ground began to tremble, the leaves of the trees started rustling, and the same gigantic snake appeared. With its hood spread, it slithered straight toward Miriam. Miriam closed her eyes in fear, but astonishingly, the snake did not bite her. Slowly, it turned toward the forest, as if signaling Miriam to follow it. Then, in front of everyone, Miriam stood up and silently followed the snake without any resistance. Seeing this scene, the villagers felt relieved and said that their trouble had now passed. But for the old mother, it was as if the world had collapsed upon her heart. Her tears refused to stop. Strange shadows appeared in her eyes, as if a secret was hidden in her heart. Yet again and again she shook her thoughts away and told herself that no, she herself would have to find a solution to this problem. The next day, the old mother, leaning on her walking stick, slowly went toward a deserted place where a great elderly saint, Pir Baba, lived. In the village it was famous that he knew great secrets about snakes and mysterious creatures. The path was desolate, the shadows of the trees were growing longer, and in the silence only the sound of crickets echoed. Finally, she reached Baba Jai's small mud house. With tired steps and trembling hands, she knocked on the door. After a few moments, the door creaked open, and a radiant elder stood before her. In a trembling voice, the old mother said, "Baba Jai, please allow me to come in. I am trapped in a great calamity." Baba Jai silently nodded and invited her inside. Then both came out and sat under a dense banyan tree. In the cool shade of the tree, the mother's tears could not be restrained. Looking at her deeply, Baba said, "Why have you come, mother? Lighten the burden of your heart." The old mother broke down crying and between sobs said, "Baba Jai, a terrifying snake has become obsessed with my daughter Mariam. Wherever she goes, it follows her, to the extent that the villagers have even she was dressed as a bride and handed over to that very snake. My child, my only daughter, has gone into the forest with it." Baba Jai watched her silently for a few moments, then said in a heavy voice, "A snake does not follow someone like this without a reason. There is some reason, some hidden secret. Think carefully. Have you ever done something for which your daughter is now paying the price?" Hearing this, it felt as if cold water was poured over the old mother's heart. Tears streamed from her eyes, and in a trembling voice, she revealed the secret of her heart. "Baba Jai, in haste I picked up a big stick and struck that snake. I thought I had only killed a snake. What was the big deal? But Baba Jai, just a few days after that, all of this began. First the snake appeared to Mariam at the well, then in the fields, then around our house, and now it has taken her into the forest." Saying this, the old mother broke down crying. Her walking stick fell aside and her hands began to tremble. "Baba Jai, I do not know what will happen to my child now. All this is the result of my own mistake." The elder said gravely, "This snake is not an ordinary snake. It is a noble serpent, one that has a heart and emotions. You killed its female companion. This is its revenge, and that is why it has taken your daughter." The old mother's hands shook violently. "O Allah," she cried out, "please return my daughter to me." The elder said gently, "Do not worry, I know the solution. I possess books about snakes, from spiritual incantations to their deepest secrets, things that ordinary eyes cannot see. I will bring your daughter back, but for that the villagers must know the truth and stand with us." Meanwhile, the snake led Mariam through the rough forest paths and stopped near a broken, dilapidated hut. Inside the hut was a grave-like silence. When Mariam looked at the snake, her heart began to pound, terror filled her eyes, and she burst into tears. The snake slithered to a stop in front of her, and suddenly a strange light flashed around its body. Then came the moment when the snake's body began to shrink, its skin peeled away, and a young man appeared before her. His eyes burned like embers. He laughed with a sad, broken smile and said coldly, "Now my revenge will be complete. Now I will teach you people a lesson." Mariam staggered back in shock and cried out in a trembling voice, "For God's sake, let me go, please release me." The young man cruelly grabbed her hand and dragged her into the hut, where he tied her hands and feet with ropes. The clatter of the ropes crushed Mariam's heart even more. Her voice shook and tears streamed mercilessly from her eyes, yet she kept pleading, "I am innocent, I have done nothing wrong." There was bitterness in the young man's laughter as he snapped, "Your mother killed my female serpent. My wife was taken from me. What was done to me must be punished. Your mother took away the one I loved, and I want to give you the same pain." Mariam could not believe it. She could not understand why she was suffering this cruelty. Bound tightly in ropes, she raised her hands toward the sky, closed her eyes, and prayed, "O Allah, help me, take me out of here." The young man stepped outside the hut for a moment, perhaps to plan something, and Miriam remained there alone, bound and helpless, crying uncontrollably. Above her, the shadows of dark trees rustled softly, and deep in the forest, Miriam's prayer echoed silently. The night passed. Morning light settled on the leaves of the trees, birds began to chirp, but inside the hut only darkness and silence remained. Miriam was still sitting there, bound by ropes and utterly exhausted. The pallor of her face and the dark circles around her eyes bore witness to her suffering. Hunger and thirst had left her in terrible condition. Her lips were dry and her voice had weakened. Again and again she remembered her mother and burst into tears. Suddenly, the dilapidated door of the hut creaked open and the same young man entered. There was hardness in his eyes and a smile on his lips. In a cold voice he said, "Your end will be very bad. Watch what now happens to you." Miriam said in a trembling voice, "For God's sake, have mercy on me. Give me something to eat. I am very hungry." But the young man's smile grew even harsher. He said cruelly, "This is your punishment. Just as my life was taken from me, you too must endure this torment." Saying this, he turned and slammed the hut door shut before leaving. Miriam, bound in ropes, continued to writhe helplessly. The intense pressure of hunger and thirst drained her body of strength. Darkness spread before her eyes, and the next moment she collapsed unconscious onto the ground. Silence filled the hut, and Miriam lay unconscious, unaware of the world. Meanwhile, the elder returned to the village with the old woman and told all the villagers the entire truth, how the snake had come for revenge, and how the old woman's mistake had led to Miriam suffering the punishment. Hearing this, many people were shocked. The elder explained that whenever the companion of a noble serpent is killed, its grief reaches its peak on the 14th night, and the day after the 14th is when the serpent goes to a place where it refreshes its memories, where its love had last remained, most often the very well where everyone used to draw water. That was why they would have to be present at the well, and that would be the day they would face the snake. A debate erupted among the villagers. Some people, feeling bitter, said that it was all the old mother's fault and that she should be punished. But others, who knew the old woman and understood her service, stood firmly and said they would support her. In the end, most people accepted the elder's words and swore that on the 14th night and the following day they would gather at the well. The 14th night drew closer. It was a night filled with unease. There was a strange silence in the air, rustling in the trees, and very little light in the distance. The elder finally explained, "We will not fight. Our purpose is to win hearts and understand relationships. If this snake is grieving, we must try to listen to its pain. The steps we take will be a blend of bravery and wisdom." At last, the day arrived. The villagers set out with the elder toward the old well. The night was deep, the moonlight dim, and there was a heavy, eerie stillness in the air. Everyone gathered around the well. The elder took out his old book, its pages rustling softly. Baba closed his eyes and began reciting incantations. The villagers stood like guards, holding sticks and torches in their hands. Suddenly, the water in the well began to stir, first a gentle ripple, then heavy bubbles rose. In an instant, smoke like vapor emerged from the water, and then with a terrifying scream, the same snake appeared before them. Flames burned in its eyes, and the rustling of its hood made the ground tremble. The snake roared, "Stop all this. Do you even know what you are doing?" Striking his staff on the ground, the elder said, "We want Miriam back. Tell us where she is, or we will not let you live." The snake writhed violently, sparks flying from its hood. Roaring with rage, it said, "She is in the forest, she is in my world, you will never find her." Saying this, the snake screamed furiously. Baba immediately tore a piece of paper from his book, recited an incantation over it, and threw it into the well. In an instant, flames erupted inside the well, thick clouds of smoke rose, fire leapt high, and before their eyes the snake burned to ashes. The villagers stepped back, fear and astonishment etched on their faces. The sharp smell of burning and gunpowder spread through the air. The elder took a deep breath and said, "We have done it. That snake is gone forever. But the real task still remains. We must find Miriam." Hearing this, a faint wave of hope ran through the old mother's veins. Again and again she looked toward the sky, offering prayers. The elder, the old mother, and a few brave villagers set out toward the forest. For 2 days they searched continuously through dense bushes, streams, and desolate paths, looking for Miriam. At every rustle of leaves, the mother would startle, thinking it might be her daughter, but no sign was found. Even after 2 days of relentless effort, there was still no trace of Miriam. The mother's eyes swelled from constant crying. She called Miriam's name at every tree and every bush, but only silence answered her. She wailed loudly, "Where has my child gone? O Allah, return my Miriam to me." Caught between hope and despair, the group kept wandering through the forest, yet Miriam's whereabouts remained a mystery. Then one day, while searching the forest, the elder and the villagers reached an old hut. They pushed the door open, and upon seeing the scene inside, they were stunned. Miriam lay unconscious on the ground, bound in ropes. The old mother rushed forward, placed her daughter's head in her lap, and gently stroked her face with trembling hands. The elder sprinkled water from a nearby vessel, and within moments Miriam opened her eyes. Seeing her mother in front of her, she burst into tears. "Mother, you have come, you saved me, but that snake will not leave me. He says he will kill me." The old mother held her close, wiped her tears, and said in a trembling voice, "Do not be afraid, my child. He will never return. We have ended him forever." The elder removed an amulet from around his neck and tied it to Miriam's wrist, saying, "This will protect you. If any other snake ever tries to come near you, it will keep you safe. Now be at peace." Thus, the mother returned to the village with her daughter. Some villagers were ashamed for having decided in the gathering to sacrifice Miriam, but there was no resentment in Miriam's heart. She forgave everyone and, holding her mother's hand, returned to their small home. When she learned the entire truth, her heart felt pain knowing that all of this had begun when the female serpent was killed. But she was grateful that Allah had saved her from such a terrifying ordeal and granted her a new life. If you liked the story, do not forget to subscribe to the channel.